Tell me, Mr. President, tell me what you see when you look at your mugshot.
I see somebody that loves this country in me, that loves this country. I see tremendous unfairness. I think very few people would have been able to handle what I handled.
Well, that is a fact, Jack. Boy, is that a fact. I don't think there's anybody in or outside of politics that could have handled the withering, sustained assault that President Trump has endured. Am I right? Of course I'm right. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bam. Well, happy Monday once again. And welcome back. Democrats are crazy to insist only Biden can beat Trump. The Democrats at the Washington Post are caterwauling. Chicago may have to go into the grocery store business because their children have robbed all the grocery stores blind, so they're leaving, and then there are no grocery stores left. And then the Democrats blame the grocery stores, and they blame capitalism, because you got to keep in mind, the Democratic Party isn't. The Democratic Party isn't. And now the city of Chicago, the Democrats there, they've got a big idea. They're going to stand up and they're going to operate grocery stores in neighborhoods that they've turned into killing fields and hellholes because nobody, even the big companies, they lose money and they lose money. Walmart had to pull out of Chicago because they were being robbed blind everywhere they looked. They never made money in Chicago because the Democrats steal so much. And then when they leave, they're attacked, of course, because how dare you leave a place where you're being robbed blind and don't make any money, in fact, lose money every year. And now the city of Chicago is talking about opening up city of Chicago-run grocery stores. That seems like a great idea, because they're such good businessmen and businesswomen and some business in between. You got businessmen, you got businesswomen, and then you have business Democrats who might be genderless, no genitalia at all. Police arrested an armed man at an RFK Jr. event. He had a gun, and he was at an RFK Jr. event. The family's a little touchy about that sort of thing. I've got that one for you. Amazing stuff. Also, I noticed something over the weekend. The local news covered a story. A former sailor was sentenced to 16 years in prison for deadly 2019 stabbing of a D.C. man. And the reason that struck me is because he got 16 years for stabbing a man to death, for murdering a man. But if you walked through the Capitol, you could get 18 years. In fact, if you didn't walk through the Capitol and you were in Baltimore that day, you can still get 18 years. You can get 22 years. You get more from, honestly, for walking through the Capitol than you get for murdering somebody in Washington, D.C. You know why, Michael? Democrats. Democrats is why. Because you give them a thimbleful of power and they will abuse it. Yeah, so I thought that was noteworthy. 16 years for murder, 22 years for not even being in Washington on January 6th, being in a hotel room in Baltimore. Enrique Tarrio, black, Cuban, American, Democrat Party, lynch mob, racists. That's who they are. Murder somebody, 16 years. Don't show up Washington, January 6th, 22 years in prison in a penitentiary. Isn't that amazing? So we got that going for us. Just amazing. And also 9 juveniles, they're all Democrats, escaped from a detention facility in Pennsylvania. They've, during a riot, there was a riot at the child detention center, for young criminals who are going to grow up to be Democrat voters, and the Democrats want their votes. And they escaped, but they've all been captured. Not like that other illegal alien Brazilian that was wanted for murder in Brazil and came to the United States and murdered that woman by stabbing her 38 times in front of her 2 little girls. That took 2 weeks to catch him, but they did do a good job catching him, got to say. But these guys, 9 Utes. What's a Ute? 9 Utes escaped the juvenile detention facility. They've all been captured. That's good. Also in New York City, Democrats running a daycare center left fentanyl laying all over the place. A 1-year-old kid overdosed and died. 4 more kids overdosed and were taken to the hospital and were saved because it's a child care center, a daycare center, being run by Democrats. And they consider a very, very late-term abortion. Oh, President Trump was asked about that yesterday by NBC fake news anchor Kristen Welker. And I don't know how many times she used the word abortion, but to say that she showed up eager to talk about abortion would be a generous understatement. That was pretty remarkable stuff. A police officer murdered in an assassination. They're calling it an ambush killing in California because the Democrats demonized the police. And now Democrats come out and assassinate police officers and run away. And, you know, it's like the suicide attacks the Democrats have launched against police, literal suicide attacks in New York, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Baton Rouge, and beyond. But those are the big major Democrat Party suicide attacks where they murdered police officers and were there to commit suicide. The Democrat Party is responsible for all of that, by the way. And Kevin McCarthy should come out and articulate that publicly. Republicans everywhere should articulate that publicly. You know, if the Democrats had that to use against the Republicans, if there were Republicans all over the country launching suicide attacks against members of Congress, see Congressman Steve Scalise, that was a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. By the way, James Earl Ray, who killed Martin Luther King Jr., was also a Democrat Party presidential campaign volunteer. But somehow that's been cleansed from his record. Anytime he's mentioned anywhere, history class, political science, the New York Times, that never comes up. Isn't that amazing? That's just great. So we've got that. We got a lot of news going on today. I'm going to get to it, as much of it as I can. Pretty amazing stuff. Also, the left attacking this guy. What is he? A comedian, Russell Brand, kind of an actor, a humorist, something like that, a social observer. And he's made some observations that the left objects to. So now he's in the crosshairs and he's being accused of all kinds of crimes. And the New York Times is lying about him because they were typing on behalf of the party, capital T, capital P. And so they're lying about Russell Brand, because if you get your news from the New York Times, you may know a lot of stuff. The problem is that it's all wrong. That's just the big problem there. And Muslims, a Muslim city council in Michigan bans the rainbow flag. And the left is conflicted because, they want to self-immolate. I know they do. But I'll update you on that. And just see, now this may be less curious than it looks at first, but a soap opera actor named Billy Miller died over the weekend at the age of 43. And he was a big advocate for getting your vaccines and your boosters. And don't forget, and he's, he was pushing somebody else who's saying, I want all Democrats to get their boosters and get their vaccines. Just Democrats, though, because everything with them is a murderous zero-sum game of hatred and division. They're the left. They're not liberals. They're the left. All right, so that's scratching the surface on stuff that I'm going to get to here, and there's a lot of it. Right now, let's go to the telephones, because there's another big, curious story going on right now, too. In Virginia, let's go to Mike, calling from Gainesville, Virginia. Mike, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, good Monday morning, Chris Plant.
Hey, now, what do you say, Mike?
Since you were a former Pentagon correspondent, I imagine this story would come across your radar. Do you happen to know where that F-35 in Charleston ended up?
Isn't that a weird story? I've never seen anything quite like it over dry land. You hear about fighter jets going down. Now, just for people that aren't up to speed, an F-35 fighter jet, it's a $79, $80 million fighter jet, a single-seat fighter jet in this case. The F-35 jet reported missing in Virginia after pilot ejects during mishap. They have the word mishap in quotation marks. Mishap is what the military calls every aviation accident. So there was an aviation accident, a single pilot in his F-35, incredible, beautiful, stealthy fighter jet, $80 million airplane, and there was a malfunction of some kind. The F-35 is suspected to have crashed north of the Air Force Base where he took off, but they still haven't found it. And the pilot is okay. He parachuted out. He's banged up. He was brought to the hospital because punching out is, not a recommended everyday activity. But the U.S. military officials are searching for a missing F-35 jet after a mishap caused the pilot to eject on Sunday afternoon, and they still haven't found it. Joint Base Charleston said on Facebook that the aircraft was a Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II belonging to the Marine Corps Air Station at Beaufort. And the pilot ejected safely and was transported to a local medical center. Now, the base is working with Marine Corps Air Station to locate the missing aircraft. That is pretty bizarre. I've got to say, emergency response teams have been deployed to find the jet. And the last known position and coordination with the FAA, we're focusing our attention north of Joint Base Charleston around Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. Now, if they crashed into one of these lakes, then you might understand why it could be hard to find the jet, Mike, but it's a wooded, hilly to mountainous area. Joint Base Charleston said in a statement that, they're looking around Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. So, Mike, I think you're curious, how can we lose a jet over Virginia when the pilot punches out and presumably lands relatively near where the jet would come down and crash, right, Mike? Because that's pretty peculiar, and you don't see this very often. Am I right?
Well, what's peculiar is he had a Marine Corps F-35 wingman along with him when it happened, when he punched out. So you would think the two jets would communicate. They have a data link. So it's strange. They're stealth. They're hard to see on radar.
Right.
So obviously you keep track of them in another way using satellites and data links, but they're not talking about that. But it didn't land in Virginia somewhere. It was never in Virginia. It was always over Charleston, South Carolina, or somewhere like that.
Right. Yeah, my apologies. You're right.
It's just a strange story that they're trying to tell us that they have no idea where it could have gone. Supposedly it was on autopilot when he punched out, so it could have flown on for quite some time, communicating with satellites and whatnot. So we're not getting the full story yet. I'm sure it's embarrassing. They're just telling us what they can.
Yeah,
We'll get an update later.
I had not heard that he said it on autopilot before he punched out, but that does change the math on everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it could have flown for an hour.
Yeah. And you're also right. It's an $80 million airplane with a highly trained Marine Corps officer in there, and you'd think that we would have a little beacon on the thing where we could track it with a satellite or by other means. But again, it's all guesswork at this point. But they're talking about looking in the area where there are two lakes, Moultrie and Marion. And if it splashed down in one of the lakes, then there wouldn't be a fire on the mountain. There wouldn't be fire in the woods and a column of smoke going up. And set to autopilot, it may not have gone down as close to where the pilot punched out as it normally would. So it is a peculiar set of circumstances. And you're right, Mike, I certainly have covered an awful lot of military aviation mishaps, accidents, and this one is not like one I've ever seen before. It's very odd.
You say that again.
Yeah.
It's odd, all right.
Yeah. You have are you a pilot or you have a military background?
None of that. No, I just think it's out in the ocean somewhere. I think it flew on to places far offshore.
Well, that's possible. I don't know which way he was pointed when he hit the autopilot and punched out, but if he said it and it went out over the ocean, then that very well could be the case. That'd make it a lot harder to find. But still, as you said, where's the beacon? It's an $80 million airplane. It can just fly around and not be trackable or traceable. That's pretty peculiar.
Yeah, that's the selling point of the F-35 is that it's always in constant communication with a satellite or other airplanes. It's the quarterback. So strange.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Yeah, I'm glad the pilot is okay, going to be okay, banged up. Don't want to punch out, that's for sure. But and you don't want to lose an $80 million airplane. And he didn't want to lose an $80 million airplane either. I assume it's a he. I don't know if it's a. They haven't released a name, but it is it's a strange moment in military aviation history, and there are going to be lessons learned here, I think. Thank you, Michael. You know, CBD is everywhere. You know CBD. They're putting CBD in everything. And my friends at Generic CBD have infused CBDs into their number one best-selling, deep-penetrating muscle and joint cream. And let me tell you, this stuff is amazing. Melts right into your knees, your elbows, your shoulder, your back, especially your stiff hands, your knuckles, your fingers. Goes to work in a matter of seconds. Plus, even my best girl says it's a fantastic moisturizer. The company is called GenericCBD.com. You've heard me talk about them before. They sell premium CBD products for a lot less money, and right now, you can try their muscle and joint cream for free. You pay $2.95 for shipping and handling. It's free. And don't worry, it's not a subscription. There are no strings attached. They just want you to try it because they know you're going to love it and you're going to get more for yourself and your mom and your coworkers. That's GenericCBD.com, GenericCBD.com. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease or illness. Yeah, F-35 goes down. That's pretty crazy. I hadn't heard the autopilot detail, though. That could change everything when you're searching for the airplane, Which way were you pointed with your pointy-nosed fighter plane? Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. There is a video making the rounds on the internet of a poor couple doing a gender reveal with their teenage boy who pops out of a box as a girl. And dad in a Hawaiian shirt with a goatee and a shaved head looks like he's been captured by the North Koreans. He's got a look of horror on his face. He's trying to force a smile. He's like, I thought my son would grow up to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees or be awarded the Medal of Honor in the Marine Corps. But here he is popping out of a rainbow box in a dress with a big smile saying, it's my gender reveal. I'm 19 and you thought I was a boy, but I'm a girl. And Dad, honestly, his face hurts to look at. It's a terrible thing. Mom is kind of standing there trying to be polite, and the gender reveal box that their son pops out of. He's old enough to join the Marine Corps, and in fact, in Joe Biden's Marine Corps, they'd like to have him. Because Thoroughly Modern Millie is going for, it's like Operation Petticoat on a global scale. Democrats, what's the matter with these people? Honestly. All right, you want to stay right there because we've got more Democrat crazy coming up that you're not going to believe. All right, let's go to President Trump's interview with Democrat Party operative and activists Kristen Welker at NBC Fake News, where there is already a boycott Meet the Press movement. It's a pound sign. When the Democrats attach a pound sign to something, what that means, that's a big deal, because that means they really mean it. It's got a pound sign. You know how they are when it comes to that stuff. Like Pound Me Too. Remember Pound Me Too? Of course, they really didn't mean that, did they? Because it turns out they were the ones groping all the women and the girls, and they discovered that and said, well, I guess we should drop this. And besides, Joe Biden sexually assaulted Tara Reid, his actual staffer on Capitol Hill, with an actual relationship between the two of them, unlike Christine Blasey Ford, right, who had no relationship. Nobody remembered any of this, and her family didn't support her. Her high school friends didn't support her. Nobody believed her. Nobody supported her. But the news media went with it anyway because they love the lie. They love the lie more than the truth. I am telling you. All right, let's go to some of that from yesterday. Soundbite number 16. Let's start there. I was watching this yesterday. It's my job. I have to watch a lot of stuff that nobody in their right mind would watch because it's my homework. I got to do it. And I knew President Trump was going to be on. And besides, the boycott had already begun, which is funny, I've got to say, because they deserve to be boycotted, not for this, but it's the left, of course, that is looking to boycott them because they're the most intolerant people on the planet. They're the left, and they don't believe in free speech, and they don't believe in, and network news interview with the leading Republican candidate in a presidential race, former president of the United States, falsely impeached. Oh, a phone call to Ukraine about Biden family corruption, and you impeach the guy that asked the question, not the family getting millions of dollars from Ukraine and Russia and China and various other places around the world. Speaking of which, Hunter Biden sues the IRS. Hunter Biden has teams of attorneys. That's why he's got to sell all those very expensive paintings to anonymous foreign buyers, and that's no problem at the New York Times either. Hunter Biden sues the IRS, alleging agents illegally released his tax information. His tax information was illegally released during congressional testimony with whistleblowers and things. Hunter Biden sued the Internal Revenue Service on Monday, alleging its agents illegally released his tax information and that the agency failed to protect his private records. I remember when the IRS was targeting every conservative group in the country if they had the word patriot, like the American Patriot League, then they'd target you. The Barack Obama, Joe Biden Internal Revenue Service would target you if you had the word patriot or Tea Party. You had that in there. And then they'd sideline you on behalf of the Democrat Party when Barack Obama was running for re-election. And the IRS was forced to pay millions of dollars to the aggrieved parties, and the news media didn't cover it because they're filthies. Filthies, I'm telling you. Just amazing. Yeah, so the president's son, Joe Biden's son, alleges that the IRS unlawfully disclosed his tax return information and did not establish safeguards to ensure the confidentiality of his records. You know how he feels about confidentiality. He's got all those videos of him naked with a gun in his hand, smoking crack with hookers, and, it's his privacy is his bag. Like that hooker lady running for the state house in Virginia, who would have sex for money in exchange for money, which they're actually looking into whether she violated the prostitution laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But he's suing, so we got that going for us. Now let's go to see how the media covers that. The IRS will be the villain of the story here in all media coverage. Let's go to number 16. Here's President Trump talking to Democrat Party activist Kristen Welker, right? And Kristen Welker couldn't stop asking about abortion. Is the transcript there? Can we count how many times she said the word abortion? Because it was a lot of times. Here's President Trump with the radical extremist Democrat Party activist and host of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker.
The radical people on this are really the people, the Democrats, that say after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and even after birth, you're allowed to terminate the baby.
Democrats aren't saying that. I just have to. Democrats are not saying that.
Of course they do.
Mr. President, you can't say that. The Democrats are not saying they're not, even after birth, President Trump said, up to the last minute, up to the moment of birth, which we know is the position of a great many Democrats, it's, infanticide. And then of course, even after birth, President Trump said, and she dutifully, as a fluffer for the Democrat Party, felt obligated to jump in and cut him off and say, Democrats aren't saying that. Democrats aren't saying that. And President Trump corrected her.
You have a Virginia governor, previous governor, who said after the baby is born, you will make a determination, and if you want, you will kill that baby.
But
the
Mr.
baby
President,
is now born.
Democrats writ large are not talking about that. Only 1% of late-term abortions happen, and always in the state of
They are
crisis.
the radical people.
Now, she seemed to concede there that she knew that Governor Ralph Northam, who is a medical doctor and a pediatrician of all things, she seemed to be aware that he said that when President Trump corrected her in her false statements as she fought for the party and not the right to party, but for the Democrat Party. And then she comes back with, well, you know, sure, governor, but not Democrats writ large for infanticide after the birth of the baby, right? So she changed her tune a little bit there. Democrats writ large, right? President Trump didn't relent.
Nobody wants to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Nobody wants to see abortions when you have a baby in the womb. I said with Hillary Clinton when we had the debate, I made a statement, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month. You're allowed to do that, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Again, no one is arguing
Kristen,
for that. That's
look,
not a part of anyone's platform.
That's a lie. That is just a flagrant lie. I could give you article after article after article on Democrats advocating right up until the moment of birth, no limits on the 3rd trimester or anything of the kind. By the way, most of their beloved Western European countries limit abortions at 12 weeks. But Kristen Welker is not going to talk about that. And at 12 weeks, most Western European countries and European countries more generally, Portugal is 10 weeks, I believe. And you got France and Spain and so many others where they limit at 12 weeks, which is the first trimester for Democrats following along. That's 12 weeks is 3 months. That's the first trimester. And all over Europe, you're going to find that limitation. Liberals love to call it a ban. Like you want to ban the gay child porn books in grammar schools. No, you can still enjoy your gay child porn graphic novels at home if you're an adult. We'd like to request that you stop grooming little children, you sexually demented psychopaths. Just saying on that. But I looked it up over the weekend. Most Western European countries where, most Democrats vacation, I think, they limit to the first trimester, 12 weeks. Portugal, 10 weeks. Great Britain, the UK, I think, has 24 weeks. The Democrats like more death, more organ harvesting, more collection. President Trump.
Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion. And Kristen, you have to look at this because you said no. You have some states that are allowed to kill the child after birth, and you can't allow that.
But, Mr. President, again, no one is calling for a child to be killed after birth. No one's calling for that.
But you have legislation.
But let me.
She is a stalwart defender of the Democrat Party and everything they stand for, everything they fight for. And President Trump is right, and she is a lion Sacagawea. Am I right, lion Sacagawea? I think that she's a lion Sacagawea because that's what you are as a Democrat and as a fake journalist. President Trump.
The governor of Virginia, previous governor, who was a whack job. I call him the Michael Jackson governor.
No one's talking about that
governor,
as a part of their platform. I want to know what
that governor said you can kill the baby after birth.
But, Mr. President, this is about what you would do.
Is it? It's not about what the Democratic Party would do and what the Democratic Party has fought for? Is that what we're talking about here? Now, let's go to Governor Ralph Northam. I've played the audio many times before. He was talking to a radical left-wing radio station in Washington, D.C., and these are the terms that we have to use now. The Democrats have normalized and standardized this rhetoric, and no more being polite as the Republican Party has been for so long. Now it's time to return rhetoric in kind. Now, here's what Governor Ralph Northam, a medical doctor and a pediatrician and then Democrat governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and President Trump pointed out that he's the Michael Jackson governor because remember that picture emerged of him when he was in medical school wearing the KKK uniform with the pointed white hood and his buddy next to him with the plaid pants and the black face. And he said, well, bring in a facial recognition company because I'll prove that it's not me, which is in the black face, which is what proved that it was him in the hood. Right? And it was in his yearbook and his saying, here he is, here's Ralph Northam with his blackface friend, and he denies it. So Governor Ralph Northam.
In this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
Now, President Trump, so then a discussion after the child is born. Oops, it lived. Now what are we going to do? I can't believe we have this dilemma. We're on the horns of a dilemma. The baby lived. What are we going to do? Well, we'd have a discussion off to the side, and then we'd decide whether to bring out the meat tenderizer or not. You get that big, like Nancy Pelosi's gavel from the House of Representatives. Pretty amazing stuff, I got to say. Yeah. And again, in Western Europe, the limit is 10 weeks in Portugal. And then it's 12 weeks, a 12-week limit in Greece, Italy, France, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria. Honestly, it goes on and on. The Czech Republic and Hungary and Slovenia, it's 12 weeks, 12 weeks, 12 weeks. In North Macedonia, which is just Macedonia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, 12 weeks, 12 weeks, Denmark, 12 weeks. But the Democrats are so crazy. Norway, 12 weeks, Finland, Iceland, Ireland, 12 weeks, 12 weeks. Again, in the United Kingdom, 24 weeks. And in the Netherlands, where they have legalized prostitution and drugs, 22 weeks, which is what we're angling for here, isn't it? Yes, it is. That's your Kristen Welker. And now the hilarious part is that the left wants to boycott her show because, why? Because she actually sat down with and interviewed President Trump. That's all it takes, right? And that's pretty funny that this is the threshold that the left has for boycotting and trying to destroy a television show. And it's this is her debut show, which is pretty darn funny that Trump's Meet the Press interview ignites boycott. And that's pretty funny. The Hindustan Times is reporting on it. Backlash against Trump's appearance on Meet the Press as he made questionable statements. Calls for boycott emerge. Isn't that great? Just wonderful. Now, the questionable things are like, did Ralph Northam really say that? Are the Democrats, they just love abortion. Abortion is really their thing. It's the lifeblood of the Democrat Party, so to speak. Just amazing. All right, let's grab a quick call. Let's go to Sid, calling from Los Angeles, California. Sid, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hi there. Thank you, Chris. I finally had a realization why all these cities like Chicago, New York, Washington don't want to accept these migrants. I think they realize they have enough Democratic voters there already, and they want to spread out the other voters around the country.
Bada boom! I tell you what, Sid, I've got something on this for you today because the Lieutenant Governor of Texas spoke up about this, and he had some remarkable things to say and some numbers. You're right, Sid. They've got enough Democrat voters, and this whole thing is about Democrat voters, isn't it? Yes, it is. You bet your bottom dollar. But I think you're onto them again. I think we're all onto them, aren't we? And it's about time that, the jig is up on this whole open borders thing. And the crimes, the murderers, just the Brazilian, And I got the mass murderer, murdered 11 people in Brazil, convicted, escaped, came to New Hampshire, captured again by ICE. The Democrats are against ICE. Democrats are got another police officer murdered yesterday in an assassination because the Democrats, and I've got audio for you on that too, from the former sheriff of Los Angeles County. Sid, thank you for paying attention. Sid and I, we know each other from Sea Cruise, Los Angeles, California. Came along on our Sea Cruise. Hey, breaking news. President Biden's plan to introduce the devious digital dollar is already nefariously underway, and it's very important to understand the potential consequences because notwithstanding the lies that they're telling us, this is not in your best interest or mine. Time is of the essence, so taking action is a good idea. You know, if you want to protect yourself, you can help protect your savings from the risks of Biden's digital dollar by diversifying your savings in your retirement, by investing in IRAs with gold and silver. Time to call the experts at American Alternative Assets. Call American Alternative Assets today at 888-4GOLD20, 888-446-5320. They'll give you all the guidance you need on safeguarding your retirement savings. Say no to Joe Biden's digital dollar. Call 888-4GOLD20. Individual results may vary. There is no guarantee that past performance, gold and silver, will be indicative of future results. Seek your own legal, tax, investment, and financial advice before opening an account. Yeah. You're Democrats. They're a demented bunch. Yes, sir. Have you seen the video of the kid who's offered $10,000 or 2 Oreo cookies? That's coming up. NBC Fake News did a fake fact check. Jane C. Tim and Shahil Kapoor and Ryan J. Riley and Julia Ainsley. They got 4 of them doing a fact check there. Trump, I don't think they voted for him. What do you think? I don't think they voted for him. And they say, no, Ralph Northam didn't. No Democrats advocate infanticide. That would be illegal. Ralph Northam was talking about children with severe deformities and beating them with a meat tenderizer after they're born alive. So they even lie in their fact checks. You can watch the video, you can listen to the audio, and NBC News will still lie to you because that's their role in our society. Isn't that amazing? All right, 5 American hostages have been released by Iran in exchange for a giant ransom payment of $6 billion. I've got that for you coming right up. More hostages to be taken soon.